My name is Alara Quinn, 33 years old. By the time my sister started opening my baby shower gifts, the cake knife was still warm in my hand. Not from cutting cake, from gripping it too tightly while everyone laughed. We were in my mother's living room, the one with the beige couch nobody was allowed to sit on, and the fake ficus in the corner that shed plastic leaves if you brushed past it. Pink balloons bobbed against the ceiling. A banner spelled out, "Baby Girl," in glitter letters that caught the light every time someone moved. It was the kind of Pinterest perfect party my family never bothered to throw, until there was a baby they could show off. Apparently not mine. My sister Bree stood up near the gift table, palms pressed to her still flat stomach, and tapped her spoon against a glass. The sound cut clean through the room. "Surprise," she said, grinning wide enough to hurt. "I'm pregnant too." The room exploded. My mom clapped like she'd just won something. My aunt gasped and cried. Someone yelled, "I knew it!" I smiled, because that's what you do when you're 9 months pregnant, swollen in places you didn't know could swell, and your younger sister decides your baby shower is the perfect stage for her announcement. Bree waited for the noise to die down, soaking it in, then walked straight to the gift table. She laughed, already reaching for one of the bigger bags. "I'm due after you," she said lightly, like this was all very logical. "So I'll need these later. Might as well take them now." I actually thought she was joking. I waited for the punchline, the wink, the gotcha. Instead, she pulled out a boxed baby monitor, turned it over in her hands, and looked at me. "You don't mind, right?" she said. "You've got that salon money. You can just buy more." A couple people chuckled. The laugh landed wrong, like it had teeth. Before I could even process what was happening, my mom was beside her, stacking boxes into her arms. "That's smart," she said, nodding like this had been her idea all along. "Let's just load everything into Bree's car. You don't even have a crib yet, Alara. No need to overextend yourself." I watched my mother carry out my stroller, the one I'd bought on sale at 2 in the morning after reading 37 reviews like it was a life or death decision. I watched Bree unwrap a tiny onesie with my daughter's name, Mila, already embroidered in looping pink thread. She held it up, tilted her head. "We can get this redone," she said. "My girl's name will look cuter anyway." More laughter, softer this time, polite, complicit. My throat tightened so fast I had to swallow twice. My hands shook around the cake knife, the metal clinking faintly against the plate, and I set it down before anyone noticed. My daughter wasn't even born yet, and somehow the room had already decided she mattered less. So I said nothing. I refilled punch cups. I nodded when people talked at me. I smiled until my cheeks hurt while my baby shower was dismantled and loaded into my sister's trunk like a Costco run. My mom carried the last bag out with the satisfied air of someone finishing a charitable act. When the door finally closed and the room went quiet, the balloons looked ridiculous, floating over empty space. My husband Aaron came up behind me and rested a hand on the small of my back. "You okay?" he asked softly. "Yeah," I said. It was a lie so practiced it didn't even sting. "I'm just tired." Later, in the car, my silence stretched long enough that he didn't try to fill it. That's one of the reasons I married him. He knows when words would only bruise something already tender. For context, because my family always forgets it, I live in Dallas, and I own a small beauty salon called Honeycomb Studio. I built it from a 3-chair space wedged between a laundromat and a pawn shop into a full-service place with 8 stylists, a brow tech, and a Saturday wait list. I'm not flashy. I'm not rich. I'm careful. I know my numbers down to the dollar: rent, payroll, taxes, product orders. Aaron's an electrician, steady and methodical. We rent a small 3-bedroom duplex and we're saving for a house before I got pregnant. Mila is our first baby. To my family, though, I've always been one thing: the bank. I helped my parents refinance their house 3 years ago, covered the closing costs. When my dad's truck died, I put the transmission on my credit card just until the settlement comes through. When Bri wanted a winery wedding instead of the courthouse, I paid for her dress, her hair, all the bridesmaids' makeup, and did the makeup myself after a full Saturday at the salon. I sent my mom money every month for groceries, even when I was skipping my own little luxuries to keep the lights on at work. If a bill was late, they called me. If a cousin needed a plane ticket, they called me. If there was a gap in a family budget, someone would say, "Well, Alara has the salon," and I would nod, like that was my role. I told myself that's what family does. They never really hid that they liked Bree more. She did everything on time. Marriage, kids, house 5 minutes away. I was the one with the weird name, the weird hours, the business. Little comments piled up over the years. My mom introducing Bree's kids at church as my grandbabies, then adding, almost as an afterthought, and this is our other daughter, she does hair. My dad asking, in front of everyone, how's the little shop? Still hanging on? Right after I'd hit my best quarter ever. When I told my mom I was pregnant, her first question wasn't, are you happy? It was, can you afford this? So maybe watching them carry my baby shower out of the house shouldn't have surprised me. It still hurt. That night, Aaron and I stood in the half-finished nursery, staring at the empty corner where the crib was supposed to go. We laughed because if we didn't, I was going to cry so hard I'd scare myself. We'll figure it out, I said. We always do. We found a crib on Facebook Marketplace, a rocking chair at a thrift store, string lights left over from the salon's old window display. The room turned out soft and warm anyway. The only thing from that shower that stayed was a single pack of size 1 diapers someone had shoved under a chair and forgotten. Mila was born 3 weeks later. Labor was long and nothing like the peaceful water births I'd seen online. But when they put her on my chest, warm and solid and real, none of that mattered. Aaron cried harder than I did. My mom came to the hospital for 20 minutes, took 3 photos that made sure her face was in all of them, and left because traffic was bad. Bree didn't come at all. She texted congratulations and sent a picture of a stroller she'd just bought, asking if I could use my stylist discount at a baby boutique for her. I stared at the screen, Mila asleep against me, a catheter still taped to my leg, and felt something quiet and dangerous settle in my chest. I told myself again that once they saw her, really saw her, things would change. I didn't know yet how expensive that hope was about to become. The first 4 months after Mila was born blurred together in a haze of feedings, half-slept nights, and me learning how to exist in a body that didn't feel like mine yet. I went back to the salon earlier than I planned, mostly because I didn't trust anyone else to care about it the way I did. Honeycomb was my second baby, even if no one in my family ever acknowledged it that way. I'd pump in the back room between clients, the low mechanical whir filling the space while I scrolled invoices and payroll on my phone. I learned how to hold a spreadsheet steady with one hand and a sleeping infant with the other. Mila liked the sound of my voice reading appointment notes out loud. It calmed her. It grounded me. My mom stopped by occasionally, not to help exactly, more to inspect. She'd tilt Mila's head gently and say things like, her head's a little flat on this side, or, Bry's pregnancy has been so hard on her. Everyone is different, you know, especially when it's your first. As if this wasn't my first. As if I hadn't just stitched myself back together and gone right back to work. I kept sending the money anyway. $300 a month for groceries. Another $200 here and there when my mom mentioned Bree needed help setting up her nursery. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself I could afford it. I told myself a lot of things that all sounded like excuses when I said them out loud to Aaron. They don't even ask how you're doing, he said one night, rocking Mila while I washed bottles. They ask what you can cover. They're just stressed, I said too quickly. A new baby, money stuff. He didn't argue. He just looked at me in that quiet way that made me feel seen and foolish at the same time. Then, one Tuesday afternoon, my phone lit up while I was in the back room pumping. Bree's name. I almost didn't answer it. I should have trusted that instinct. Emergency, her text read. Can you co-sign a loan for us? Just $30,000 for baby stuff. We found the perfect house but need furniture, nursery, car seat, everything. $30,000. I stared at the screen while the pump tugged rhythmically, my back aching from holding Mila at 3 a.m, from standing all day cutting hair because maternity leave had never really been an option. I looked around the room, the secondhand shelves, the towels I'd personally bleached and folded for years, the calendar where I'd penciled in extra clients just to cover payroll while I was out. For baby stuff, I typed back slowly. No, absolutely not. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, came back. Wow, Bree replied. Seriously? You know our credit is messed up after everything with Tyler's job. I thought you, of all people, would understand. Forget it. I set the phone face down. My hands were shaking, but underneath that was something steadier than I expected. Relief, maybe. I had finally said no. A clean number. No softening it, no explanations, no, let me see what I can do. When I told Aaron that night, he exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for months. Good, he said. That's good. I believed him. I believed the boundary would hold, simply because I'd drawn it. I didn't know yet that in my family, no was just a suggestion. 2 weeks later, the letter came. It looked like junk mail at first. Thick envelope, bold lettering, the kind you usually toss straight into the recycling. Something about my name printed so neatly on the front made my stomach twist. I opened it, standing at the kitchen counter while Mila kicked in her bouncer, the plastic toys chiming cheerfully. Welcome to your new personal loan. I read it once, then again. Cosigner, Ilara Quinn. I hadn't cosigned anything. My vision narrowed as I flipped through the pages. Loan amount, $30,000. Primary borrower, Brianna Owens. Monthly payment, $612.73. First payment due in 30 days. And then the signatures. Mine. Almost mine. Close enough to pass if you didn't know I looped my cue differently. Aaron, I said, my voice thin. He came in from the living room holding Mila, took one look at my face and knew. He read the letter, jaw tightening. You didn't, he said. No, I whispered. I told her no. I told her. He set Mila down gently, the bouncer squeaking in that stupidly cheerful way, and looked at me. Then we're not letting this slide. The next few hours felt unreal. Phone calls, hold music, being transferred from one polite voice to another. Finally, a woman from the credit union explained, carefully, that they had my signature and a copy of my driver's license on file. Your file is wrong, I said, my voice shaking but steady. I did not sign anything. I want to file a fraud report. There was a pause. We don't usually see this in family situations, she said. I own a business, I snapped. I know what fraud looks like. By the end of the day, I'd filed an affidavit, sent screenshots of the text where I'd refused, placed fraud alerts with all 3 credit bureaus, and frozen my credit. The next morning, I walked into my bank with Mila strapped to my chest and asked to close every joint account, remove every authorized user card. It could impact their credit, the banker said gently. I'm sure, I replied. When I left, something in my chest loosened. Not happiness, more like relief after cutting off a circulation that had been hurting you for years. The backlash started that night. Texts from my mom, calls from Bri, voicemails from Tyler about how I was destroying their future. I didn't answer. The next day they came to the house. I saw their silhouettes through the frosted glass and almost pretended I wasn't home. Aaron stood beside me. Open it, he said quietly. I'm here. When I did, my mom launched in without preamble. How could you do this, she demanded. Freezing your credit, calling the bank. Are you trying to embarrass us? Bree pushed forward, already crying. It was just a form, she said. They said you'd probably say yes anyway. I looked at her, at the woman who'd emptied my baby shower into her trunk, who'd laughed and said I could buy more. Something in me finally went still. No, I said, I'm not fixing this. The words landed heavier than I expected. My mom stared at me like I'd slapped her. My dad's face hardened. Bree sobbed harder. I didn't know yet how far this would go. Courtrooms, charges, lines that couldn't be uncrossed. I only knew that for the first time, I wasn't stepping back. And that scared them more than anything else ever had. They didn't leave when I said no. Not right away. My mom kept talking, her voice shifting registers like she was flipping through familiar scripts, trying to find one that would still work on me. First outrage, then disbelief. Then the soft, pleading tone she used on waiters and church ladies. Sweetheart, she said, clutching her purse tighter, this is all just a misunderstanding. Bree panicked. You know how she gets when she's scared? You're really going to let your sister drown over paperwork? Bree sniffed loudly beside her, one hand on her belly, the other wiping tears that never quite reached her eyes. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said. I just needed help. You've always helped. That sentence, you've always helped, hit harder than the forged signature. Because she wasn't wrong. I had always helped. And that was exactly why she'd felt safe stealing my name. I told you no, I said quietly, in writing. My dad stepped forward then, arms crossed, jaw set the way it always was when he decided he was the authority in the room. We're family, he said. You're going to call that bank and tell them you made a mistake. Aaron shifted beside me, his shoulder brushing mine, a silent question. I lifted my hand slightly. I needed to say this myself. No, I repeated, louder this time. I'm not. The word hung there, heavy and unfamiliar. My mom's mouth fell open. Bree stared at me like she didn't recognize me at all. You can't do this, my mom said. You're blowing this way out of proportion. It's baby stuff. The statement says Sephora, I said, and a Vegas hotel, and an Airbnb labeled Baby Moon. Bree flushed. That was before we got serious, she muttered. Before you got caught, Aaron said evenly. My dad took another step forward, anger sharp now. Aaron stepped 2, blocking the doorway without raising his voice. You need to calm down, my dad snapped at him. If it involves her name, our home, and our child, Aaron said, it involves me. My mom tried one last angle. Think about Mila, she said softly. She needs family. I thought about the living room full of people cheering while my baby stroller was carried out to someone else's car, about my mom's 20-minute hospital visit, about the way Bree had never once said Mila's name out loud. She needs people who won't steal from her mother, I said, and call it love. I didn't slam the door. I closed it slowly. Behind it, Bree screamed that I was ruining her life. Maybe I was. Or maybe I was finally refusing to ruin my own. The bank moved faster than my family. They froze the loan pending investigation. They requested handwriting analysis and pulled camera footage from the branch where the paperwork had been signed. When the fraud investigator called me back, his voice was clinical. It was your sister, he said, clear as day. I wasn't surprised. I was tired. A month later, the district attorney's office called. We'll need you to testify, the woman said, just to confirm you didn't give permission. The idea of sitting across from Bree in a courtroom made my stomach churn, but the idea of letting this dissolve into family drama made me feel worse. Court smelled like old coffee and disinfectant, beige walls, hard benches. I wore black slacks that still felt too big since pregnancy, and a blouse I'd worn to my first salon lease meeting, like armor from a past version of myself. Aaron's mom watched Mila so I could be there. My parents sat behind Bree, dressed like it was Sunday service. My dad wouldn't look at me. My mom dabbed her eyes with a tissue that stayed dry. Bree looked small and very pregnant. I knew that was part of it. When I took the stand, my hands shook until I gripped the edge of the seat. The DA asked simple questions. My name, my job, whether I understood what co-signing meant. Did you agree to co-sign this loan? He asked. No. Did you give your sister permission to use your ID? No. Did you sign any paperwork related to this loan? No. Bree's lawyer tried to muddy it. You've helped your family financially before, correct? Yes, I said. So it wouldn't be unusual for you to assist them? It was unusual this time, I replied, because I said no. He tried suggesting I was angry about the baby shower, bitter, emotional. You were upset, he said, that your sister announced her pregnancy at your event. Yes, I said calmly, and I was 9 months pregnant and still managed not to commit a felony. A ripple went through the room. The judge's eyes flicked up, just for a second. Then the fraud investigator testified. He read out where the money went. High-end furniture, a luxury handbag, Vegas, electronics, a $6,000 transfer for an online content creator course. Baby items were there too, but buried under lifestyle spending. By the time he finished, the judge's expression had gone flat. In my courtroom, he said, looking directly at Bree, wanting the best for your child starts with not committing crimes. Bree took a plea. Identity theft, bank fraud, probation, restitution, a felony on her record. My name was cleared, my credit restored. My parents looked at me like I'd done this to her. The next day, my mom called sobbing. Are you happy now? She asked. You've ruined her life. She ruined it when she stole my name, I said. You've changed, she snapped. Money made you selfish. No, I said quietly. Money made you think I was responsible for everyone else. She told me not to expect them at Mila's birthday. I told her that was her choice. When I hung up, my hands were steady. My phone was quiet. And for the first time in years, my bank app didn't make my stomach drop. But silence has a weight of its own. And I was about to learn exactly how heavy it could be. The quiet after court wasn't peaceful. It was sharp, brittle, like the air right before a storm. I kept waiting for something else to fall. Another call, another accusation, another demand disguised as concern. Instead, there was mostly absence. No good morning texts from my mom, no updates about Bree's pregnancy, no passive-aggressive Bible verses posted to the family group chat. They didn't rage at me anymore. They erased me. At first, that hurt more than the shouting ever had. My mom called once, 2 days after the plea deal, her voice raw and accusing in the same breath. How is she supposed to get a job now? She cried. How is she supposed to raise that baby with a felony on her record? She can raise her baby the same way I'm raising mine, I said, with what she can afford. There was a long pause, then her tone hardened. You've always thought you were better than us. The words stung because they landed on an old fear. I'd spent years shrinking myself to avoid exactly that accusation. downplaying my business, apologizing for success, writing checks instead of setting boundaries. I don't think I'm better, I said. I think I finally stopped letting you treat me like a wallet. She called me cruel, ungrateful, cold. My dad shouted something in the background about respect. Aaron stood in the doorway, silently mouthing, "Hang up." I took a breath instead. "For what it's worth," I said into the phone, "I hope you all get your finances together, but you're officially off mine." When I ended the call, my hands trembled, not from fear, but from adrenaline. I blocked their numbers after that. Bry's, Tyler's, even the family group chat. The digital silence felt heavy, but underneath it was something steadier than grief. Safety. Weeks passed. Bree had her baby. I found out through a cousin's Instagram story. Soft pastel filters, carefully angled shots that hid more than they showed. My mom commented heart emojis under every photo. She never once said Mila's name. I tried not to let that ache settle too deep. I focused on work, on Mila learning to grab her toes, on the salon humming the way it always had, chairs full, mirrors lit, people trusting me with parts of themselves. One afternoon, my cousin Tasha stopped by, unannounced, just stood in the doorway watching Mila wiggle on a blanket. "I always knew they were using you," she said quietly. "Seeing it in court. I'm sorry I didn't say something sooner." I didn't know what to say back, so I hugged her. Mila turned one last month. We didn't do a big party, no balloon arches or custom cookies. I baked a simple chocolate cake in a round pan that stuck a little, so I covered the rough edge with strawberries. We strung up photo clips across the living room. First bath, first salon visit, the time she tried lemon and looked personally betrayed. Aaron's mom was there, holding Mila like she was something sacred. Two of my stylists came, bringing thrift store toys and handmade bows. Tasha showed up with a book and a hug. There were 2 empty chairs at the table. I put them there on purpose, not as an invitation, as a reminder. When everyone left and the house smelled like sugar and baby shampoo, I carried Mila into her room. The thrift store crib, the hand-me-down rocker, the string lights we'd hung ourselves. I sat there with her asleep on my chest and felt something close to peace settle in. For years, my family treated my wallet like the most important part of me. They proved it again and again, at dinners, in bank forms, at my baby shower. I used to think I could pay my way into their love. Love doesn't come with an interest rate. My accounts are quiet now. My phone is quieter. And my daughter will grow up surrounded by people who show up because they want to, not because they're hoping I'll bring my checkbook. That's the life I chose the day I said no and meant it.